Hello Key Stage 2, welcome to today's math challenge, and as you can see it's a times table challenge that we're looking at today. Times tables is one of my favourite things to do with maths, and it's something that lots of people struggle with. There are very few children at our school that are fluent with their times tables. So again, if you've watched that video about fluency, that's knowing their times tables really quickly. They don't have to work anything out. So it's going to enable you, so this video will show you a way of coping with questions that involve times tables that you don't know. So while you're still learning them, you mustn't avoid questions that involve times tables you don't know. We've got to have a strategy to help us. So what do I do when I don't know a times table? So quite often in maths you'll have a question. It could just be a sum, or it could be a word problem with a calculation involved in it. And you can see it and go, oh, hang on, I don't know my 7 times table, I can't do that one. So what should I do? Should I give up? No, definitely not. What you should do is use it as motivation to try and learn your times tables. So remember, you've got My Maths, which is brilliant for times tables. It allows you to practice your times tables, but also test you against the clock to improve your recall, so to get that fluency as good as it can be. And we've also got Times Table Rockstars. And as I said to you, I think I sent a post out a while ago, it is a really good time at the moment as you're at home to get your times tables cracked, because it will help you with maths as you grow up. It will mean that you'll be able to complete things much faster, and you'll definitely feel more confident. So it is worth using it as motivation to try and learn them as quickly as you can, but no, you should definitely not give up. So hopefully after watching this video you will have a strategy to use to help you cope with questions that involve times tables you don't know. So first thing, when you look at this, 7 multiplied by 5, I have seen children in year 6 go, oh, I don't know my 7 times table, and they skip on with the question. And while it's good not to get bogged down with a question you're not sure how to answer, we don't want to waste time doing something that is really puzzling us, actually we can look at this and say we know that with multiplication, just like addition, it is commutative, and what that means is you can do it either way. So you can do 7 times 5 or 5 times 7. So for this one, yes, you may not know your 7 times table, but you know your 5s, so you should be able to very quickly answer this question. So that's the first thing. Look to see if there's a number there, so the times table that you do know or can work out very quickly, and then I would use that one. Okay, if we move on to 9 multiplied by 7, lots of children don't know their 9s or their 7s. Okay, so what I would be doing is thinking about facts that I do know really easily. So I know my 10 times table really quickly. So I'm going to think about, instead of 9 times 7, I'm going to think about 10 times 7. And hopefully you're all shouting at me and say, yes, that's 70. And then what I'm going to do is, because I only want 9 lots of 7, I'm just going to take 7 away. So I'm going to think that 70 take away 7 is 63. So that is our answer. So it's about thinking very carefully about the sum and thinking, hang on, I want 9 lots of 7. I can work out 10 lots of 7 very quickly. Then I can manipulate that fact. So that means I can use that fact to help me work out a fact that I don't know. So I've got 10 lots of 7 here. I'm going to take 1 lot of 7 away, and what I'm left with is 9 lots of 7. So that's a really good strategy to use. Okay, now we've got 8 multiplied by 7. So I would presume that probably 90% of people watching this film do not know their 8s or their 7s. They're 2 of the last ones that we really learn at school. This is my favourite times table fact, by the way. So what I'm going to do now is share with you this strategy when you don't know either of the times tables, okay, involved in the question. So 8s and 7s, yeah, we're not sure. And as I said to you before, it's using facts that you do know. So I'm going to focus on the 8 times table this time. I just find it easier to add and multiply with even numbers. So I'm going to very quickly just write down my 8 times table as much as I can go to start with. So 1 times 8 is 8. I'm going to jump straight up to 10 times 8 is 80. And hopefully everybody sat there going, yeah, I follow that. And that was terribly drawn, Mrs. P.O. Now you will be much faster at doing this because you'll be able to actually just use a pen and paper. So bear with me if my numbers look terrible. Okay. And straight away, I'm looking at this and saying it's not a very good start, is it? So 1 times 8 is 8, 10 times 8 is 80. I can use this fact to work out 5 times 8 rather than counting in 5s. Okay, if you know your 5 times table, then yeah, you can fill it straight in. But I can just half 80 to give me 5 lots. So 10 lots is 80, 5 lots is 40. okay? Again, I'm thinking about 8 times table. I'm now going to go back to here and say, okay, 2 lots of 8 would be double 8, which is 16. I know my 2 times table, but I also can double numbers very quickly. Now I'm going to stop there and remind myself that I'm looking for 7 lots of 8. So I have got here 5 lots of 8 and 2 lots of 8. So if I add 5 and 2 together, I get 7. So if I just add those two numbers together, 40 add 16, so 40 add 10 is 50, add the 6 is 56. Very quickly, I have found my answer. And what you'll notice is I haven't filled in the whole of the times table. I started off with 1 times it, 10 times it, 5 times it, and then I've looked at it and thought, hang on, I could just double that one very quickly. And then actually I've got all the information that I need. Okay, so I don't want you to think the strategy is to sit down and write the times table out in order. That isn't it at all. It's about using facts that you know really quickly, where you're going to be very accurate, so you're not going to make mistakes with them. Because actually, if you are just writing it down, quite often when you're adding a number again and again, you can make some mistakes. So it's about sticking to those facts that you know really well. Okay, now if I wasn't doing it on a computer and I'd made mistakes and things like that, I probably could have done that in under a minute. And it didn't involve any sums being completed, and it, as I said, was sticking to facts that I was really sure about. So that is my strategy that I'm going to share with you today. Now, for those of you who are more confident with your tables, it is a strategy that you can continue to use. Now, as you go up through the school, so I'm thinking about in year 6, where I've taught year 6 obviously for a long time, there are other times tables that are involved. So I'm looking at something like this. So 207 divided by 23. Now you might say, what on earth is this kind of question? However, this would be a very typical question that you would get in year 6, and the person setting it would hope that you would go, no way, I do not know my 23 times table, and I would argue that nobody knows their 23 times table. So this is where the strategy comes in. This is where you're thinking about, hang on, but I can work it out quite quickly. So if you're somebody who's more confident with your times tables, you can start to look at numbers beyond the times tables that you know. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say 1 times it is 23. I'm not going to carry on there. I'm going to jump straight to 10 times it. Okay, and I know 10 times 23 is 230, because both the digits move up a column and I fill my gap with a placeholder, which is 0. Okay, so now I'm thinking 5 times it. Okay, I'm going to half 10 times it. So I'm going to half 200, which is 100, and half of 30 is 15. So it's 115. Now I'm going to go back to the question. Okay, I'm going to think, I'm looking at the number 207. It's nowhere near 23, it's nowhere near 115. However, it is near 230. So I'm going to concentrate on this end, and I'm going to find 9 times it. Now what I can do is do this mentally, and I can think 230, take away 20, okay, is 210. So hopefully you're following me here, because I've got 10 times it, I want 9 times it, so I'm going to take away 23. I've got 230, take away 20, and then I'm going to take away 3. So 10 take away 3 is 7, and what do you know? I get the answer 207. So I've already answered my question. Now, like I've said to you before, I haven't filled in the whole of the times table. I've concentrated on the part of the times table that my question is closest to. Now, I could have spent ages writing out the times table. I probably would have made a mistake, but I would have wasted a lot of time, because actually 9 times it's so close to 10 times it. So I've answered that question very quickly. And again, it's taken me a bit longer because I'm using a silly computer and my numbers look a bit ridiculous, but never mind. Now, if you weren't able, okay, to do that mentally, you could have used a number line, or you could have done column subtraction, where you did your taking away. Okay, but again, we're focusing on using number facts to do with this times table, the 23 times table, that we can work out really quickly. Okay, so let's move on and look at something else. So this time 27 times table. Now if we go back to the 23 times table, it's easier to count in 23s, it's easier to double that, because this number in the units, in the ones, is under 5, okay? And you'll see what I mean when we look at this. So 1 times it is 27, okay, and then 10 times it is 270, all right? So this is a bit more difficult to half, because it's an odd number of tens, okay? but actually we can do this, and you can do this any way you want. You can draw some things to represent the numbers. Okay, you can think about, in my class quite often we partition the number and say, okay, half of 0 would still be 0. Half of 70, remember this is 70 not 7. Okay, half of that, so half of 7 is 3.5. Okay, so half of 70 is 35. The way I halve odd numbers, just as a top tip, so if I was halving the number 7, I always halve the even number before it, okay, which is quite easy to do, is 3, and then think the difference between those two numbers is 1, and I know that half of 1 is 0.5. That's a really important fact to know, half of 1. So I always think about the even number before it, half that, and then add 0.5 to it because I've halved the 1. Okay, and then half of 200 is 100. Now I'm obviously explaining this to you, so it probably feels like it's taking a bit of time, but when you're working on your own, you can go at your own pace. So 5 times it is 135. Now what I'm going to do is look back at my question and say, okay, I'm looking at 216. It's not very close to that or to that, so it's going to be somewhere in the middle. So I'm going to go back up to here and say 2 times it. Now, double 27, this is what I was trying to say to you. When you were doubling, we were looking at doubling 23, it'd be quite easy because it's 40 and then 6. But here we've got double 27, okay. Now you could do 27, add 27, that would be fine. I'm just going to do it this way and say double 20 is 40, double 7 is 14, and I'm going to add it together. Okay, so 40 add 10 is 50, add the 4 is 54. Okay, so I'm now going to work out 7 times it. So I'm going to add my 2 times it to my 5 times it. So when you're working in your jotter, use your squares to line up your numbers carefully. Okay, now I'm really conscious that I've got year 4 watching this, I've got year 3 watching this. I would never expect you to be able to do your 27 times table. Okay, so please just bear with me, and then when I explain what your challenge is going to be, we'll be going back to sort of times tables under 10. So please don't panic about this, but this is for the whole of Key Stage 2. So this is a bit of a challenge for years 5 and 6. Okay, although lots of the children in years 5 and 6 still need to learn a times table, so they'll be doing the same things you are. Okay, 5 add 4 is 9. Okay, because 5 add 5 is 10, so I'm adding 1 less, it'd be 9. 3 add 5 is 8. Okay, so 7 times it, because I've added the 2 times it and the 5 times it, is 189. Now I'm getting closer to this. Okay, I'm getting closer because I'm at 216. It's not very far away. So I'm going to do 189, and I'm going to add one lot of 27 to it. Okay, now you can see where I'm working is getting a little bit congested. That means there's lots of things that could go in the way, so make sure you spread your work out. Right, 9 add 7, so 9 add 1 is 10, so 9 add 7 would be 16 because I'd have the 6 left over. Okay, 8 and 2, I know that very quickly, is 10. Add the 1 and we cross it off in year 5, it would be 11. So it reminds us that we've added it on, not missed it out. And then 1 add 1 is 2. And what do you know? There we go. So 8 times it is 216. So I have my answer, okay? 216 divided by 27 is 8. So when you look at that, you might have said, Mrs. PA, I would have, instead of doing 7 times it, okay, I would have done 3 times it, okay, by adding another 27 to that. Then I might have doubled that to give me 6 times it, worked out where I am. So you've got lots of different sort of opportunities and different ways of working. But what we're not doing, like I said, and I keep saying, we'll not go through the times table in order. It wastes time. Focus on the area and finding out the facts that will help you get closest to your number. Okay, so this is moving on now to what your challenge is going to be. So on the next page, I'm going to explain that. What I'm going to say to you is if you're really confident with your times tables, okay, and this doesn't mean you know them all really, really well, but you're familiar with them, practicing writing them out will help you. But today I really want you to focus on working on this strategy of using facts that you do know to help you work out ones you don't know. So when you look at the challenge in a minute, it might be you choose a similar number to me. So if you're really confident with your times tables, or you know them pretty well, you're quite familiar with them, so you wouldn't have to sit there and think about it, then I would choose a bigger number to help you practice. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to write out this whole times table. I'm only going to do to 10 times it, because if I wanted to find 11 times it, I could just add the 1 and the 1 times it and 10 times it together. If I wanted 12 times it, I could add the 10 times it to the 2 times it. So we're just going to go up to 10. And I'm going to try and show you how I would do this. Again, it's going to take me a little bit of time because I'm using the computer. You will be able to do this much faster. But like I said, my main objective, so my main aim today is to try and get you to use facts that you're really confident with, okay, and then use them to help you with ones that you're not so sure about. Because if you stick to what you really know, okay, and you're confident with, there's less of a chance of making a mistake. So I'm going to do this and see how I get on. 1 times it is 34. Okay, I know that. 10 times it, okay, is 340 because 34 times 10 is 340. Now I'm going to go to 5 times it. It's so annoying writing on this, so I apologise. Okay, half of 300. So half of 3 is 1.5. Half of 30 is 15. Half of 300 is 150. Okay, so I'm going to jot that down, 150. And then half of 40 is 20. So add 20 to that is 170. Okay, right. Then I'm going to think, right, I'm going to use this. So 2 times that, I'm going to double 34, which is 68. Okay, I'm going to use that to help me work out 4 times it. I'm just going to double that. Hopefully you agree that doubling the 2 times it is 4 times it. Okay, so double 68, 120 is double 60. And then 8 would be 16. So 120 add 10 is 130. And then add the 6, 136. Okay. Right, now I'm going to use 4 times it to work out 8 times it. Okay, so double 136. Now I could just do a sum and do 136, add 136. I'm going to partition. That's faster for me. Double 30 is 60. Okay, double 6 is 12. Now I could do a sum to work these out, but I think I'm going to do this in my head. 200, 260. Add the 10 is 270, 272. Okay. Right, now what I'm going to do is look at 3 times it. So I'm going to do 68. Oh, that's a really terrible 8, sorry. Add 34. Okay. 8 add 4. Forgive me for that 8. I would be really cross if a child did that in my class. But the computer is terrible. Okay, so 8 add 4. 8 add 2 is 10. I've got 2 left over, so it's 12. 6 add 3 is 9. Okay, 102. So 3 times it is 102. Now hopefully you'll work out what this fact can help me answer. So if I double 3 times it, I've got 6 times it. So double 100 is 200, double the 2 is 4. Okay. Now when you look what I've actually written down, not very much at all, and I've only got 2 gaps. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need 7. Okay, and I need 9. So you can do whatever you want to do. If you want to work out the 9 times it by doing 272 add 34, that would be fine. If you want to work out 9 times it by doing 204 add 102, okay, because 3 add 6 makes 9 times it. You could do it in lots of different ways. I'm going to do 340 take away 34, and I'm going to think 340 take away 30 would leave me with 310. And then take away 4 would be 306. Okay, so like I said, if you want to stick to adding numbers together because that's why you're more confident, you've got lots of different ways of making 9 times it. You could even do 4 times it twice and then add 1 times it together. Okay, so there's lots of different ways of working. You might look at the numbers and say, actually, that's a really easy number. You could times that by 3 because 3 times 3 is 9. So you times that by 3. Do we get the same answer? 100 times 3 is 300. 2 times 3 is 6. Yes, we do. Okay, so there's lots of different ways of doing it. Work to your strengths. So now we're going to do, I'm just going to add 34 to that, I think. So 204 add 30 would be 234. Add another 4 is 238. Okay, so I've obviously explained what I'm doing quite a lot to you. If I was working quietly on my own, I probably could have done that in under, I don't know, 2 minutes. Maybe even less, but I've tried to show you the ways that I have worked it out, and I promise you, if you can learn how to work flexibly like this, so that means work in the areas of the times tables that you need to focus on rather than just listing them. I've seen children go through and they've spent ages adding 34, and then they've made a mistake with this one They're trying to get to that one. So if there's a mistake there, you're only going to continue to make mistakes. So like I said, work with facts that you're really confident with, okay, and then use them to work out ones that you don't know. Okay, so that's the 34 times table for you. Nobody knows that one off by heart. Certainly nobody I've met. It would be a little bit sad, wouldn't it, if you knew all your times tables. You'd have you should be doing sort of more exciting things than learning your 34 times table. However, we need to be able to work out any times table in a clear way. So your challenge is to choose a times table that you are not familiar with and see how long it takes you to write it out. Now, when I say not familiar, that means if somebody said to you, what's double that number, you'd have to think twice, okay? So if you know most of your times tables, or you know lots of facts to do with them, and it's not that you're completely fluent, so you know them off by heart really well, but you're familiar, don't choose those times tables. Try and do something like your 13 times table, or your 16 times table, or your 22 times table, okay? And see how quickly you can work it out by using that strategy that I've shared with you. And my top tip is don't do it in order. Use easy facts to help you work out the harder ones. Okay, so you should be jumping around the times table and then quickly making some notes down to help you. So if you look back at mine, these are my workings out. Now, yes, there's a sum, there's a bit of partitioning there. I've just written a number down to remind me there. You don't need to do beautiful sums for this. You just need to make sure you're working accurately. So write down anything that is going to help you. If you don't need to write it down, then don't. Okay, and then what I would just very quickly do is just double check a few of your sums to make sure they're correct. But what you should notice is that you're not sort of getting mixed sort of answers, I suppose. So if you got an answer that, I don't know, was 406 there, but 10 times it's 340, you've made a mistake. But this is a really good skill to practice. When I was in year 6, we used to do this sort of 3 times a week. You just used to choose a random times table, like the 42 times table, and just to practice for everybody, have the chance to practice a times table that they didn't know, so that they knew no matter what times table came up, they were confident to have a go at it, because we don't want you just to give up. So I'm talking now to children who aren't confident with times tables, and I would choose something like your 6s or your 7s or your 8s or your 9s. If you don't know hardly any of those facts, then practice working those out very quickly. And what you'll find is that it will show you when you're trying to work them out. If somebody asks you that question, you'll see the connection between the facts, and hopefully it will make a bit more sense, and your recall, so your fluency, will increase. But let me know which times table you went for, and if you want to do more than one, then I would be very proud of you. But please have a go at least one, and then let me know how you got on. Okay, good luck.